Hello, and welcome to the second Public Consultation Center for the Class Environmental Assessment Study for the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station. My name is Ivy Newell, and I will be presenting on behalf of SEMA Plus and the Region of Waterloo. SEMA Plus was the consultant selected by the region to complete the Class Environmental Assessment Study for this project. The region previously held Public Consultation Center 1 for the study to introduce the project, provide background information on the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station, answer any questions about the study, and provide an opportunity to get involved in the project. Presentation boards from the first Public Consultation Center are available on the region's website at the link shown. Before we begin, some housekeeping notes. This video will be available on the Region of Waterloo website as of January 27, 2021. On the Region website, there is a transcript of my narration for this presentation and a PDF copy of the slides. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to Nicole Cepeda or Kelly French, whose contact information is in this presentation, or fill out a comment form provided on the Region website and submit it to the project team. Welcome. Public consultation and engagement are integral to municipal class environmental assessment studies. We are holding this session to provide the public with opportunities to learn more about the municipal class environmental assessment process that this project has followed. The goals of this Public Consultation Center are to provide an update on the project progress, provide an overview of the potential alternatives identified for the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station, provide information on the decision-making process and preliminary preferred alternative solution, and receive public input. Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station Project Overview. To better understand the project, we ask the following 3 questions. 1. What are we doing? 2. Why are we doing it? And 3. What does it mean to you? To answer the first, this study is being done to identify preferred improvements to meet long-term servicing needs for the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station. Why are we doing it? The Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station needs improvements to ensure continued reliable operation. What does it mean to you? Improvements for the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station may include work at the existing station or constructing a new station close to the existing location. Pumping stations are an important part of our wastewater system. Wastewater is generated at homes and businesses through everyday activities like showering, flushing the toilet, or washing the dishes. When it leaves our homes and businesses, it enters the city's underground network of sewers. Wastewater flows through sewers by gravity from areas of high elevation to areas of low elevation. Pumping stations like the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station are an important part of the wastewater conveyance system. They make sure that wastewater from low-lying areas get to the region's wastewater treatment plant for treatment. In Kitchener, there is one wastewater treatment plant that receives wastewater from many pumping stations across the city. The wastewater treatment plant ensures that wastewater is fully treated before clean effluent is returned to the Grand River. Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station. The Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station is located at 365 Riverbend Drive. It serves northeastern Kitchener, sending sanitary flows to the Kitchener Wastewater Treatment Plant's collection system. The station was built in 1961, having been in service for almost 60 years. Its current capacity is 245 liters per second with 3 pumps, 2 duty, 1 standby. Area serviced by the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station. The Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station Sanitary Catchment area is shown on this figure. The area serviced by the station is primarily developed lands and generally extends south to Victoria Street North Highway 7, east to the Grand River, north to Bridgeport Road East, and west to Margaret Avenue. Currently, the total service area is approximately 400 hectares of residential, business parks, industrial, and open spaces. Future capacity of the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station. During the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station Class Environmental Assessment Study, we took a detailed look at future peak flows using flow monitoring and modeling software to confirm the required future capacity for the station. The model examined future flows to the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station, including the predicted impacts of climate change and the addition of future developable industrial lands using information provided by the City of Kitchener. The modeling results informed the recommendation to increase the Spring Valley sewage pumping station capacity to meet servicing needs up to the year 2051. Major infrastructure, which will be around for a very long time, such as the pumping station building and tanks, will be sized to meet the long-term 470 liters per second firm capacity. Equipment with shorter asset lives will be sized to meet the short-term 350 liters per second firm capacity. Examples of shorter asset life items include items such as pumps, instruments, and standby power generators. An important consideration for the Spring Valley sewage pumping station was adding emergency storage. Proposed alternatives incorporate 1 hour of emergency storage based on the City of Kitchener design standards and best management practices from other municipalities. This will ensure that the station is more resilient to wet weather events due to climate change and provides improved protection to the natural environment. Project Study Area. An overall study area was identified at the beginning of the project to include the possibility of upgrading the existing station or building a new station. Between the Grand River and the east side of Highway 85, the study area was defined by ground elevations and the existing sanitary sewer network. The overall study area is shown here with a dashed black line. We did an initial review of background information and identified an unevaluated wetland, woodland, steeped slopeland, and watercourses within the overall study area. Because of this, we created a more focused study area to avoid sensitive natural features. The focus study area includes private and public property near the existing Spring Valley sewage pumping station, as shown here with an orange line. Investigations were conducted to assess cultural heritage, archaeological, and environmental impacts as they relate to the alternative solutions. Cultural heritage findings in the study area. A cultural heritage resources investigation was completed as part of this study to evaluate culturally significant structures and landscapes located within the overall study area. The first step was to research the historical context in the overall study area. City of Kitchener and Region of Waterloo planners responsible for heritage matters were consulted. Any designated or recognized properties within the limits of the overall study area were identified and cataloged. The project team completed a site inspection and created an inventory of all properties with potential built heritage resources and cultural heritage landscapes within, adjacent, and in proximity to the overall study area. Each potential cultural heritage resource that was identified was evaluated on the criteria set out in Ontario Regulation 9-06 for determining cultural heritage value or interest. 2 City of Kitchener identified cultural heritage landscapes were located in the overall study area, including the Grand River Corridor and the Walter Bean Trail. An evaluation of potential project impacts on the cultural heritage resources was also completed and strategies were identified to protect them in the future. Archaeological findings in the study area. A Stage 1 archaeological assessment was performed to provide a comprehensive review of archaeological features in the overall study area. This was done through an examination of the archaeology, history, geography, and current land conditions. This gave us an inventory of known archaeological sites within 1 kilometer of the overall study area and previous archaeological fieldwork within 50 meters of the overall study area. The assessment identified areas of archaeological potential, no archaeological potential, and areas that had already been assessed or disturbed. An area of archaeological potential is one where buried archaeology is more likely to survive, whereas steep-sloped, permanently wet, exposed bedrock, or otherwise disturbed areas indicate areas of no archaeological potential. A Stage 2 archaeological assessment was done in the focus study area to learn more about areas of archaeological potential that were identified during the Stage 1 assessment. Stage 2 investigation involves making small test pits at set intervals across the areas of archaeological potential. The focus study area was found to consist of mostly disturbed soils due to the long history of industrial and urban development over time. The Stage 2 assessment did not identify any archaeological materials. Based on these findings, no further archaeological assessments are required in the focus study area. Environmental features in the focus study area. Environmental investigations in the overall and focus study areas were completed to review the opportunities and constraints of alternative solutions. A review of background information was performed first to provide a general understanding of the location, extent, and significance of natural features in the overall study area. Field investigations were then completed to confirm the extent of sensitive natural heritage features. The largest areas in the focus study area include deciduous forest, cultural meadow, and disturbed land. Cultural woodland, cattails, hedgerow, shallow marsh, and phragmites were also present in the focus study area in smaller areas. The Grand River Conservation Authority floodplain extends through the focus study area on the north side of Riverbend Drive as confirmed by the field investigations. Grand River tributaries labeled Tributary 1, 1A, and 1B on this figure were also field verified on the north end of the focus study area. 2 key species were found as part of the field investigations. An osprey, which is protected under the Fish and Wildlife Conventions Act, was observed outside the boundary of the focus study area on the East Highway 85 easement. 1 small butternut was found on the north side of Riverbend Drive. Butternut is listed as endangered under both the Federal Species at Risk Act and the Provincial Endangered Species Act. Alternative Solutions Development. We've considered and screened a number of alternative solutions to meet the long-term servicing needs for the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station. Do nothing and limit community growth options were considered for the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station. However, these options did not meet the project objectives. Upgrading the existing station and providing off-site emergency storage was identified as a feasible alternative. This alternative focuses on upgrades within the existing building and existing site. However, the size of the property is not large enough to accommodate the emergency storage tanks. As a result, off-site storage was identified in the area north of the existing station. Upgrade the existing station with off-site emergency storage will be referred to as Alternative 1. Alternative Solutions Development. The second alternative involves 3 sub-options for constructing a new station on an off-site property close to the existing station. The potential siting locations for a new station include the Walter Bean Trail parking lot area on City of Kitchener property north of Riverbend Drive, referred to as Alternative 2A, the open area north of the existing station on City of Kitchener property west of Riverbend Drive, referred to as Alternative 2B, and the industrial land south of the existing station on private property west of Riverbend Drive, referred to as Alternative 2C. Alternative Solutions 1, 2A, 2B, and 2C were carried forward into the detailed evaluation process. Alternative Solution 1, upgrade existing station with off-site emergency storage. Alternative 1 involves upgrading the existing station and providing land for emergency storage. The existing station is located on a plot owned by the region that is surrounded by City of Kitchener land and the Highway 85 easement. The majority of the existing infrastructure, including the station building and wet well, can be reused to upgrade the existing station. However, there is not adequate space within the existing site to accommodate the emergency storage. Given that the existing region-owned property is heavily treed, sloped, and within the Highway 85 property setback, the installation of emergency storage would require a section of nearby City of Kitchener property to be acquired, as shown on the figure. In addition, space for constructing a new station in the future will be required to accommodate the expansion of the station to meet the ultimate capacity of 470 liters per second. The advantages of Alternative 1 include the efficient reuse of existing buildings and tanks, lowest short-term capital costs, and adequate footprint of the adjacent site to accommodate emergency storage. The disadvantages of Alternative 1 include the potential for impacts to the community and station operation during construction, the limitations for providing redundancy of process equipment when using the existing station infrastructure, and the increased risk to the environment due to station shutdowns and time complexity. Alternative Solution 2A, new station in Walter Bean Trail parking lot. Alternative Solution 2A involves constructing a new station north of Riverbend Drive, adjacent to the Grand River on a property currently occupied by the Walter Bean Trail parking lot. This site is partially within the Grand River Conservation Authority's regulated floodplain. It also contains a small cultural meadow community and open-grown trees. The advantages of Alternative 2A include minimal impacts to businesses and minimal conflicts with existing utilities for a station sited at this location. The disadvantages of Alternative 2A include the disruption of core environmental features as part of the Grand River Valley, the need for additional flooding prevention provisions, the potential for noise and odor impacts due to its proximity to the Walter Bean Trail, and the need to relocate the parking lot and trail access. Alternative Solution 2B, new station in open area north of existing station. Alternative Solution 2B involves constructing a new station in an open area north of the existing station on the west side of River Bend Drive. This site contains a cultural meadow community and disturbed land. The advantages of Alternative 2B include minimal impacts to businesses and the public during construction and operation of the station, its proximity to the existing station and sanitary sewer network, which will reduce the depth required for the station, the available staging area to limit conflicts with ongoing operation of the existing station and its location adjacent to the existing region property. The disadvantages of Alternative 2B include its proximity to the existing City of Kitchener stormwater sewer, which will complicate construction. Alternative Solution 2C, new station on industrial land south of the existing station. Alternative Solution 2C involves constructing a new station on industrial land south of the existing station on the west side of River Bend Drive. This site is composed of primarily industrial land. The advantages of Alternative 2C include minimal impacts to the environmental features and wildlife due to the disturbed nature of the site and minimal anticipated impacts to the public during construction and operation of the station. The disadvantages of Alternative 2C include its high capital costs, impact on the business currently using the industrial site, and the additional site preparation considerations and disposal of excavated material requirements. Evaluation criteria. Detailed evaluation criteria were used in the assessment of the alternative solutions. 4 main criteria categories were identified to include environmental, technical, financial, and social considerations. Specific factors were considered within each of the 4 criteria categories. Factors related to the environmental criteria included protects environmental features, protects wildlife and species at risk, protects groundwater, streams, and rivers, and minimizes climate change impacts. Factors related to the technical criteria included provides reliable service, meets existing and future needs, aligns with existing and planned infrastructure, aligns with existing and future land use, aligns with approval and permitting process, manages and minimizes construction risks, and ability to adapt to climate change. Life cycle costs from capital, installation, and operation and maintenance costs were considered as part of the financial category. Finally, factors related to the social criteria included minimizes impacts to residents related to noise, odor, traffic, and aesthetics, minimizes impacts to businesses, manages and minimizes construction impacts, protects cultural heritage features, protects archaeological features, and protects health and safety. The Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station alternative solutions were evaluated according to the factors shown here, with each of the environmental, financial, technical, and social categories being considered equally. The highest score identified the preliminary preferred option. Evaluation methodology. An evaluation system was developed to be used in the selection of the preliminary preferred alternative. Scoring of alternative solutions was completed to evaluate how each alternative met the criteria. Scores were assigned for each criterion depending on if the alternative solution was very well aligned with criteria, well aligned with criteria, somewhat aligned with criteria, not well aligned with criteria, or had low alignment with criteria. The full blue circles represent a more preferable option, while empty white circles represent a less preferable option. The evaluation process included 3 sequential steps. Step 1 identified advantages and disadvantages for each alternative solution. Step 2 involved assigning criteria scores for each alternative solution, and Step 3 determined the preliminary preferred alternative solution based on the results of the evaluation scores. Evaluation of alternative solutions. Alternative solutions were put through a detailed evaluation that included environmental, social, technical, and financial considerations. Higher scores were assigned to solutions that would reduce or eliminate potential impacts. Alternative 2C scored the highest in the environmental category because construction of a new station on industrial land presents minimal environmental impacts. Alternative 2B scored the highest in both the social and technical categories as construction of a new station in an open area close to the existing station is expected to have minimal impacts on the community and the existing station operation. Alternatives 1 and 2B are anticipated to have similar 50-year life cycle costs and therefore both achieve the highest score in the financial category. Alternative 2B, construct a new station in the open area north of the existing station, achieved the highest overall score and is being recommended as the preliminary preferred alternative. Preliminary preferred solutions or alternatives. Key advantages of the preliminary preferred alternative to construct a new station in the open area north of the existing station include the ability to operate the existing station during construction, the proximity of the proposed new station site to the existing station and sewer network, and the best overall score considering environmental, social, technical, and financial factors. Project schedule. After completing this Public Consultation Center 2, the next steps for the project team will be to review and consider public input received during this Public Consultation Center and confirm the preferred alternative solution for the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station. A project file report will be prepared to document findings of this study and will be available to the public for a 30-day review period. We encourage you to review all Public Consultation Center material available on our website. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for participating in this virtual Public Consultation Center for the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station, Schedule B Class Environmental Assessment. Would you like to provide input on the preliminary preferred alternative solution for the Spring Valley Sewage Pumping Station? Do you have any questions, comments, or want to stay up to date? Please submit any comments or questions that you may have by email or phone to Nicole Cepeda or Kelly French before March 1st, 2021. Nicole Cepeda, Bachelor of Applied Sciences, P.Eng., is the Region Project Manager with the Region of Waterloo. Her mailing address is 150 Frederick Street, 7th floor, Kitchener, Ontario, N2G4J3. Nicole can be reached by phone at 226-750-4521 or via email at ncepeda@regionofwaterloo.ca. Kelly French, M.Eng., P.Eng., is the Consultant Project Manager with SEMA Plus. Her mailing address is 101 Frederick Street, Suite 900, Kitchener, Ontario, N2H6R2. Kelly can be reached by phone at 519-772-2299, extension 6224, or via email at kelly.french@sema.ca. On behalf of the entire project team, thank you for your interest in this project and for participating in this Public Consultation Center.